So for my analysis poem, I got The History Teacher by Billy Collins. As I was reading it, I could tell that it was one of the more easier modern poems. It had a very easy tone to read, and I was able to understand it very easily, which made me happy because it's very hard for me to understand very old poems with a different style of writing. I could tell that the author littered a bunch of allusions everywhere. Right here, it says the Ice Age. One here is the Spanish Inquisition. Another one is the War of Roses and the Enola Gray with the atom in Japan. And the last one is the Boer War. So he's referring to all these time periods because he's a history teacher and he's teaching his students about events in history. I could tell that the POV changed from third person to second person. Right here it says his, and they go from there and they till it goes to second person by asking direct questions as how far is it from here to Madrid and what do you call the Matador's hat? For the tone, I thought it was very mixed or satirical because he's making comparisons here, metaphors between large events, trying to dumb it down to be smaller events. He's calling the Ice Age the Chili Age. He's saying the Spanish Inquisition is nothing but series of insignificant questions. The War of Roses took place in a garden because roses are plants and they mostly grow in a garden. The Enola Gray dropped one tiny atom when it was a big atom. Uh, he's making light of very serious events and issues, which is satire. He's changing up their meaning. The of tone is that it's not necessarily sad, but he's tiptoeing about around the fact that it's serious and he's not necessarily happy about it. His word choice is to make things seem smaller than what they really are. For example, when he's saying the Ice Age to the Chili Age to make the children understand it better, he's saying the Chili Age was where everyone had to wear sweaters. He's making something very old seem very modern when it happened thousands of years ago. He's making it seem that it happened maybe like 20 years ago. Um, it's almost like a backwards hyperbole, an opposite extreme. He's taking the seriousness and significance out of events and making them seem very small and unimportant when they're some of the most important pieces of history. There is no alliteration anywhere in this poem. Nowhere here is there beginning sounds or ending sounds somewhere at the end or of start of phrases. There's no rhyme, so these are years, ers, age, time, more, garden, atom, week, glasses, home, etc. There's no pattern of A, A, B, B, C, C. He has a lot of long run-on sentences. He doesn't use many periods. He has a lot of commas. This whole second stanza is basically one big long chunk run-on. Right here is one big sentence, and then from the start from here to here is a really long sentence. Right here, this chunk has one comma. There's a comma here, comma, and then he tops it off at the bottom with a period. So this whole chunk has very little grammar as or punctuation. He's trying to make it seem like a very long narrative, long story. He right here is having sort of a self-reflection of what he was doing. He's thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that by changing the significance of these events. He's saying while he gathered his notes and walked home past flower beds and white picket fences, that could be a nod to a facade that he's created for the children, saying how um, he's created a world for them that's too perfect than what it actually is, and he's giving them a false sense of hope and security, telling them that it's the world is something when it's really not. He's now deciding that he shouldn't have done that because it's going to skew the reality. Right here, and it says, when the children go, leave his classroom for the playground and torment the weak and the smart. He could be having a reference to society or to some hierarchy, maybe referring to the society he was facing when he wrote this or in the future. showing how if we don't teach people um, events in history, that they will not succeed as well because they will go out of order and possibly create a worse society. He's trying to show that there's hierarchy here, that necessarily the weak and the smart will get preyed on. Um, how his history has somewhat showed in the past. This whole poem is used to be a long story. If he didn't put any rhyme or anything like that to try and make it lighthearted and funny, because it's not. He really used this poem to be a teaching moment for anyone who reads this, to give them a second thought as to what they might be doing in their everyday tasks. As I kept reading on, I didn't see any more literary devices. He didn't use very big comparisons. He really only used metaphors. He didn't use so many like different types of literary. He just kept it very basic, as what I would say. And yeah, that is my analysis of The History Teacher by Billy Collins.